Welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 82. I'm Adam.
And I'm Brian.
Before we get into our game of the week this week, we want to invite you over to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, Twitter, which we need to get more active on, but we'll get there eventually. Yeah, thanks. Follow along on any social media. Check us out and see what we've been playing.
This week's game of the week is Dosh board golf. Now, if you're watching this, we're going to assume you already have the basics of how to play golf. We're not going to teach you the whole sport. But the gist of it is you get a board that has 9 holes on it.
Before I start, the high score wins in golf?
Yeah, no. The lowest score wins in golf. You have a board, and then it comes with 4 different sets of clubs. There's a green player, in which case you get 2 green discs and your 8 clubs. There's a blue, a red, and a yellow, so it can play up to 4 different people. So you find the first tee box, and everybody would put one of their discs on there. And then you find where the first hole is, and it's marked with a number 1. And it's got these weird, odd shapes on the board, but you basically have to count the spaces to get to the hole. So you count, for this one, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We want to go 9 spaces, and then you pick a club that's going to hit that many spaces. So every set comes with 2 putters, 2 mid-range, 2 drivers, and then 2 max drivers. But every club has slightly different stats, and they're all different from each other. So my green putters are going to be slightly different from the red putters, which are slightly different from the yellow. So you have to kind of play them differently and choose them appropriately.
And your distance range is anywhere from 0 to, I think the max we've seen is 13 as far as spaces go.
Yeah. The clubs themselves, so in this case I said it was, how many was it
9.
again? 9. Yep. So in this case, for 9, I would find one that you roll 2 dice on it. The blue is how many spaces. So I look at the blue numbers at the top. Clearly I'm not going to use a putter for a drive like this. This one can hit up to 11, but there's several 9s on it. So this is probably my best bet in this situation looking at it. So I say, okay, I'm going to hit with this driver. I roll the red and blue dice. You look at the gray strip in the middle, and we'll have shots up on the screen so you can see this better. So I'd say I roll a 7 blue. I look at the gray 7 and then go up to the blue. That moves 8 spaces, so which means I'm just shy of 1 of the hole. And then the red 7, that shows the control over the shot.
The slice and hook.
The slice and hook. Think of it like, we compared it to what when we were talking about it?
A Mario Golf kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't hit it right in that perfect
spot. You got that
spot.
little power meter where you have to hit the button a second time to be as accurate as possible. In this case, for this club, I go to the 7 on the gray bar, and then I go down into the red, and that's 0. So it does not go to the left or right, it lands right there. And that's my spot. And then I would mark on the scorecard that I took 1 stroke, and now I'm 1 away there. The next time, I'd say I'm 1 away there, so I'm going to find a putter that hits 1. Well, this one hits almost all 1s if I look at it, so this is my best bet. I would roll again. I would say blue 6. They go to the 6, go up to the blue column. Sure enough, that's 1. And then a red, so the red one is 0, but it's got to be a green 0, meaning you have full control over it in order to hit it into the hole. So when it lands on the space with the hole, if it's a 0, fine, it still lands in that space. It doesn't go to the left or right, but then you'd have to add a stroke because you have to tap it out. It landed next to the hole, not in it.
The red 0, when you're going at the hole, gets you on the green, but doesn't get you in the hole. The green 0 is you chip in, basically.
Perfect, yeah, right into the hole. Now, if you were to ever not hit it properly, and let's say my red, I was driving and I hit like a red 12, in the case of this one, it would go 2 to the right. So then you would have to go, okay, so this is where it should have landed, then count 2 to the right, so it would land over here. So not having control over the ball kind of affects that.
There are some obstacles on the course too, just like regular golf. You have some small trees, which kind of look like bushes, which you can hit over, you can hit through. There's the medium trees and the large trees, which if you're hitting right through the center of the space, you're going to hit them.
And then it drops to the ground and it kills it right there.
Right there, so you don't continue counting. Then you have water hazards and out of bounds too. So if you land in the water, you go back to the last piece of land that your ball was over, and the same thing with out of bounds.
And then you take a penalty stroke.
Yep. So if you have the basic idea of how golf works, if you played Mario Golf, like we've talked about, it's a good.
Or Hot Shots Golf if you're a PlayStation guy, not a Nintendo guy. Yeah. Now, and again, this is very brief because without being able to see the shapes and everything, it's a little hard to explain it. But you get the idea. You're aiming and shooting. Now, if you're ever not shooting straight, like the 1 is over here and it is not a straight shot, you can put 1 bend in your shot. So the way I did it is I went to here and then I bent to show that I was aiming a little to the left. So you can put 1 bend in your shot somewhere.
It has to be less than 90 degrees.
Yes.
Obviously.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I get at least a 5, I'm going to bend there, and then I'm going to start going in this direction. If I get less than a 5, I'm going to be in one of these spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I land there. So you do have some more control over your shots that way. And again, this was really brief. And this was the basic beginner, the simple rules. It does add rules that take into account, do you lose the ball or do you not lose the ball when it goes in the water? Are you able to get it over the big tree or not? There's wind effects that can take place. There's effects for, you can see some of the land tiles are raised, some are lower than others, so it takes that into effect.
And then if you play the advanced rules, each player with their 8 clubs gets a little card that shows them, okay, this is how you determine if you lose your ball, this is how you determine if
And
you
it comes with a black and a white 12-sided die for some of those things. So, I mean, it can get a lot more complicated. If you're worried this isn't simulation enough, it can definitely go that route if you want to add in every rule.
Otherwise, you can keep it the very basic video gamey kind of feel.
Yes.
All right, let's talk strategy then. I mean, if you've played, again, any of those video game golf simulators, you played real golf, you kind of have an idea of what you need to do. And obviously, it's easier than real golf. I mean, your club's control, I mean, you have more control over where it's going to go. If you're a terrible golfer like me, I wouldn't have nearly this kind of control.
Yeah, for instance, this putter, let's say I'm 2 away from the hole. This putter, if I roll a 1, 2, or 3, it only goes 1. But if I roll anywhere from a 4 to a 12, everything 4 higher goes 2 spaces. So some of these clubs really have a wide range of like, oh, you're very likely to hit a 4 if you use this club. You're very likely to hit a 2 if you use this club. So it's just proper club management is obviously important, like in real golf.
The other thing is, planning out your course with especially like with the one bend that we talked about that you can put in your shot. It's finding the most efficient way there. Because there's a lot of ways on many of these holes we discovered that you can go different routes, and some are easier, some are harder, some remove obstacles, but you take a longer way there. You have to decide whether you want to play it safe and take the long route, or if you want to try to chance it and go the quickest route.
Hitting over the water, that's always a risk.
Yeah. And strategy-wise, though, I don't know if there's too much more to it than that. It's playing your clubs right. I mean,
yeah, it's playing your clubs right, knowing when to kind of press your luck and say, I don't have much of a chance of hitting over the water, but if I really roll high, if I really power hit it with this club, I can make it. So it's a little bit luck, a little bit strategy. It helps if you're not the first person to hit on a hole. So if somebody says they're going to take this route and like they just totally botch it, you say, you know what, I'm going to try hitting it this way instead and go around the trees instead of through them. But that's about it, to be honest.
But a lot like real golf, I mean, you're not really, you're competing with each other, but you don't really affect each other's play besides being able to, like you said, see what might be a better path if you are like the second or third or fourth person to go. It's, you play your clubs and hope for the lower score in the end. I mean, that's basically it.
Yep. Now we'll talk about some of our likes and dislikes. I know a lot of people are torn on this, and Adam, I'll ask you, what do you think of the board? Because I know some people have said they think it looks so, all the different shapes, and it's so bland. I actually think it's very, very pretty. I like the board and the different colors of grass and the different, I guess, the heights and the drop-offs, the waterfalls.
Because I'm of 2 minds. I can see what people are saying, that it looks too busy and it's crowded and kind of hard to decipher what's going on. But at the same time, I think the art style and the way they did it, I don't know how else you do it this way. I mean, they've depicted elevation really well with the lighter and darker grass. They do a good job. I mean, the trees kind of have a real look to them from above. Like if you were actually looking down on Google Earth, for example, this is what a golf course would look like minus all the white spots on it. I mean, so I think they've done a good job of making it a realistic representation, but at the same time, I can see it is kind of busy, and kind of gets into one of my dislikes on this game. It's a fun game. I love playing it, but sometimes determining where your ball is going to go because of these weird shaped spaces is a little hard.
When we zoom in and we post our little shots along the bottom, you'll see this. Some of them, if you're shooting a straight line, it's very easy. If you're going kind of at an angle, and they do have the number 5 hole has a little, what do you call it?
It's kind of a diagram of where your ball will go depending on what direction.
Yeah, how you count from the different angles off of it. If you're not going straight, sometimes it can be like, okay, so do I go here or do I go into this one next? And then once you have elevation, that really throws off because they don't line up perfectly anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, it can be hard to tell wait, do I go to this one next or do I go to that one? And
I mean,
you get used to it after a while.
That's really the only sticking point we had in playing this game is, everything plays really smoothly until you're trying to not take the straight route. And then it's like, okay, we'd sit a few times and try to figure out, okay, is that the space, is that space? And we'd have to map it out kind of as a group to figure out where you're going. Another kind of dislike, and we experienced this in one of our games, sometimes the tee boxes, depending on where you're sitting on the board, they all have a number for what hole they are. But if you're sitting over here, for example, the hole 6 tee box really looks like a 5 because it's not printed very darkly.
No, that is a 5.
No, that's the 6. So yeah, that's the problem. It really looks like a 5 from over there.
Oh, yep, that is the...
That's the exact issue we came up with. So it's the holes themselves, the actual hole is really well marked. It's a dark green on a light green background. But the tee boxes, sometimes it's hard to see the number you're hitting at.
The 5 and the 6 mostly, let's be honest. The 5 and 6 we goofed up in only one of our games. The other games we played it properly, but we wonder why it was such an easy shot. Yeah, if the 5 is here to here, that was an easy hit, but it's actually the 6.
But I think it, otherwise, not to monopolize, I think it really captures golf pretty well. You're not necessarily affecting each other's game, but you can kind of watch what one person does and say, okay, is that the route I want to go, or do I want to take a different route? How's the terrain affecting their shot? That's something that really goes into an actual golf game, and I think they've done a good job of doing that while keeping it kind of arcadey, I guess is a better way, the only way I can think to put it.
Well, and I like that you can make it as hard or realistic as you want. It can play very realistic, or it can play very arcadey, as you put it. The other components, your discs, you have 2 there and then where you're going to land, being able to mark with the pawns. Everything's plastic. They didn't chintz out with any cheap cardboard chits or anything. An official fancy score pad, and they come with 2 little golf pencils even in the box.
Actually say Dosh board golf on them, which is kind of neat.
Pretty slick.
Card quality it's
all right.
It's all right.
It's average.
The cards are, and design, they're serviceable. It does what it needs to do. They're not super nice by any means as far as how they look graphic design wise, but overall I think the positives outweigh the negatives, but one of the negatives is pretty big, and that's for me the determining where your ball is going to go sometimes.
Yeah, counting the spaces can definitely be difficult at times.
Anything else?
No, we covered it pretty well actually.
Yeah. All right, let's talk reviews then. Our scale, if you haven't watched before, or 0 to 10 technically, I guess. Usually 1 to 10. 1 being your terrible games, your Manhattan projects, things like that. 10 being Cosmic Encounter, Formula D for you.
No, not for HeroScape.
HeroScape, that's your 10. Formula D a 9, maybe?
It gets close.
It's close, all right. I'll start off. I'm going to give this... I think it's a solid 7.5. It's a good game. Like I said, I think it does a good job of representing the game of golf while still allowing you to not make it too realistic if you don't want to. Like you said, if you want to get really simulation, like you can go that way. Art style, it would be 1 negative, just to the degree of it does look kind of a busy board. The determining where your ball goes is a little hard sometimes, like we've discussed, but otherwise it plays really easily. You roll dice, you look at your card, and that tells you how far you're going to go and the direction you're going to go. It's really not that complicated. And it plays 4 people, it plays relatively quickly, about an hour, I'd say.
Yeah, about there.
And it's excuse me. Overall, it's a fun game. I really enjoyed the Mario Golf, the Hot Shots Golf, that kind of thing, and it really kind of scratches that itch for me.
I'm pretty close. I'm at about a 7. I have heard rumors that there's strong rumors, hint hint, that there may be an expansion coming out which is going to add a new course, because that was my one complaint is you have this big beautiful board, and again I disagree, I think it's gorgeous, but it's only one-sided and it's only 9 holes. So they are releasing another board, allegedly.
This is a perfect game for expansions.
I'm assuming, this part I don't know, that the next board will probably also be another 9 holes. So I wonder if you can maybe do a front 9 and a back 9 to make an 18-hole course. That could be kind of cool. And they're also going to release more clubs, different colors, so that you can play up to 6 players, I believe. Or you can just have more clubs to choose from. So that once that comes out, I honestly think my score will probably go up to a 7.5 or an 8, because I do think it's pretty. I do because here's the downside with sports games. If you play a lot of board games, almost all of them have very ugly components, or if they're going for uber realism, they have just tons of charts and graphs to go through, and they're very ugly to look at, and they're very dull and dry. and this kind of keeps that fast pace, the good look, and it simulates golf about as well as you're going to. So I'm going to go with the 7. I think it's a very good game.
All right, that's our review of Dosh Board Golf. Check back next time to see what we've been playing.